And this just in, nearly 3 million more American workers have filed for unemployment benefits in the past week. Now, President Donald Trump has been trying to restart the economy. He's pushing for businesses and schools to quickly reopen. But this has placed him at odds with the country's leading infectious disease expert. Dr. Anthony Fauci had suggested a cautious reopening of schools to keep the coronavirus at bay. But Mr. Trump says this is not acceptable.
Our country's got to get back, and it's got to get back as soon as possible. And I don't consider our country coming back if the schools are closed. And it's had very little, very unusual situation. It's had very little impact on young people. And I would strongly say they should open. It's up to the governors. It's the governor's choice. But their state is not open if the schools aren't open.
And Simon Marks joins us live from Washington now. Simon, unemployment in the U.S., it's still climbing, the past few weeks. But are there signs, perhaps, maybe that the worst is over?
I'm not sure that there are, Glenda. The latest numbers, they were just published here about 5 minutes ago, indicate that more people have claimed unemployment benefits for the first time in the last week than analysts were expecting. The forecasts were for 2.5 million people to claim those benefits for the first time. In reality, the number is just shy of 3 million people. 2.98 million people claimed unemployment for the first time in the last week. That takes the total number of unemployed since the pandemic began here in the United States to north of 36 million. And every week, as these numbers come in, and we chart them on the programme every single Thursday night, every week they are worse than the forecasters have been predicting. So that is still an indication that there are more people out there being impacted by COVID-19 economically, perhaps a lag in the system in terms of the numbers of people registering for unemployment benefit, but a very clear indication that economically the United States finds itself in a very difficult thicket indeed.
Simon, President Trump wants to reopen the country quickly, but this has led to a widening rift with his top medical advisor, the latest being over schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Donald Trump, Steve, has said for weeks that he wants the schools reopened. And as you heard there, he doesn't believe that COVID-19 is much of a threat for young school children. The difficulty he's got, though, is that his public health advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, in testimony before the Senate just 36 hours ago, said that he thought that states have to be very cautious about reopening schools for fear that children could spread COVID-19 to vulnerable populations at home, their grandparents and parents, for example. And also there's still an investigation underway into this mystery illness, this pediatric multi-symptom inflammatory syndrome that Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York is very worried about. It was always inevitable, of course, that at some point public disagreement between President Trump and Dr. Fauci would become evident. But the president knows that at the end of the day, he does not have the power to order America's schools to reopen. That is a decision for individual states all over the country, and individual states all over the country appear intent on keeping them closed.
Simon, so all this comes as another spat bruise, and this time America is accusing China of hacking its COVID-19 research on vaccines and treatments. What evidence has been provided for this?
Well, they haven't put any evidence into the public domain. They have said, the FBI and other agencies here, that they have detected activity by Chinese hackers trying to gain access to the computer systems of research organizations and scientists here that are digging into the possibility of developing vaccines that may prove to be effective in the battle against COVID-19. The American action echoes a warning from the British government in the last few days. And the FBI said essentially they were putting this statement out as a public service announcement, saying to research organizations all over the United States, make sure that your cybersecurity arrangements are absolutely state of the art, because this, the FBI says, serves as a warning that the Chinese are coming. The Chinese, of course, completely reject the argument that they have been trying to steal America's vaccine secrets, say that they are working on vaccine research of their own. But all of this underscores the fact that this is a global race now to find a vaccine that's going to be effective, and any information in that race is of potentially very, very high value.
Indeed, thanks for that update. Summer Mark speaking to us from Washington, D.C.